Hi, a viewer on my YouTube channel asked that I make a video about ToK Exhibition Prompt 35. That's in what ways do values affect the production of knowledge. Now, I love it when viewers send me messages and they interact, so of course I'll make a video on Prompt 35. And that's what today's video is all about. Welcome to ToK Today. My name's Daniel and I enjoy writing and vlogging about theory of knowledge, or ToK as we call it. ToK Exhibition Prompt 35 asks in what ways do values affect the production of knowledge. Now, I love this prompt because it's got the most obvious answer. In what ways do values affect the production of knowledge? In absolutely every way. We're just lucky that IB didn't ask the far more difficult prompt, in what ways do values not affect the production of knowledge? They didn't ask that because they're committed, supportive, caring and all-round good people. Let's get back to prompt 35. Clearly you can't just answer the prompt with in absolutely every way. Obviously, you have to give a more ToK-specific response, a response that aligns with and appropriately fulfills the IB assessment instrument for the ToK exhibition. And here at ToK Today, we're all about the assessment instrument for the ToK exhibition. So I broke it down into this nifty little diagram that you can follow to help you to get a great score in the ToK exhibition. I'll be using this diagram to show you one way to structure a response to prompt 35. Now, I must stress that this is only one way to respond to this prompt. There are many other ways to interpret and respond to the prompt. However, if you want more details on how I respond to this and many other prompts, then be sure to pick up one of the following ebooks, either ToK Exhibition Prompts 31 to 35 Explained, or Every ToK Exhibition Prompt Explained. The links to these ebooks are in the video description and in the QR code on screen now. Looking at the ToK Today diagram for how to answer an exhibition prompt, you'll see that the first stage is to write a knowledge claim that arises from the prompt. Now, if we want to score 5 or more marks out of 10, we need a specific knowledge claim for each object. And I'll explain why that's important later in the video. For now, let's just write 3 knowledge claims. That's one for each of our 3 objects. So the prompt is, how do values affect the production of knowledge? Well, if we're defining values as deeply held beliefs, we can write the following 3 very broad knowledge claims. For object 1, values affect why we produce knowledge. For object 2, values affect what knowledge we choose to produce. And for object 3, values affect the biases arising from our production of knowledge. Now, I've purposely kept these knowledge claims pretty broad for you so that you can sharpen them up, focus them and refine them, thus making them more your own work. I use slightly different and more focused knowledge claims in the ebooks mentioned earlier. These are just 3 examples of the many, many knowledge claims that could be written for this question. Don't feel that you have to use these knowledge claims. There are many better knowledge claims that could be used. And as mentioned earlier, you could focus and refine these knowledge claims if you can't think of any alternatives. Okay, now let's get on to the bit that everyone obsesses about, that's choosing objects. Now, I don't know why choosing objects is such a big deal. I honestly think that virtually any object could be made specific and could link to any ToK exhibition prompt. Our knowledge claim 1 is values affect why we produce knowledge, so I need an object that demonstrates a value-driven purpose for the production of knowledge. So I'm going to use this 2021 research report from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation on whether a universal basic income is a good idea. Now, I'll explain the real-world context and link and explanation of the link to the knowledge in the next section of the video. Our knowledge claim 2 is values affect what we choose to produce knowledge about. So I need an object that demonstrates a value-driven subject for the production of knowledge. So I'm going to select Gustave Courbet's 1849 painting, The Stonebreakers. And our knowledge claim 3 is that values affect the biases arising from our production of knowledge. So as such, I need to identify knowledge that's biased because of the biases held by the producers of that knowledge. And this is a bit of a controversial knowledge claim, but after some thought, I chose a specific medical trial that ran in the US from 1973 to 1982. It's called the US Multiple Risk Factor Intervention Trial. So there we have 3 objects. Now, I'll briefly explain how each of these objects fits into this diagram and can be used to answer prompt 35. But before I do that, there are 2 quick things that I'd like to point out to you. Firstly, let me draw your attention to how I wrote knowledge claims before I chose objects. Now, this is unorthodox and generally it runs against all official advice, but I think it makes it easier for you, students, to get a higher score. And if you want to know more about that, then check out my video titled Choosing Objects for the Exhibition Debate, linked above and in the video description. Secondly, if you're getting value from this video, then I'd really appreciate it if you would press the like button. And if you want more ToK content, then I would be honoured if you would subscribe to this channel. Okay, let's make this diagram real, and I'll go through the first object in detail to give you an idea of the structure and content of each part of the response for each object. I won't give such detail for objects 2 and 3 because I think you'll get the idea from object 1 and you're a busy DP student with a million other things to do. So I'm starting off by naming object 1 and explaining its real-world context. So I'd say something along the lines of Object 1 is a research report produced in the UK in 2021 by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation on universal basic income. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation is a long-established social justice charity that's committed to alleviating poverty. The universal basic income is a regular cash payment that every individual receives without any reference to their other income or wealth or without any conditions. The universal basic income is seen by some as a new way of alleviating poverty. So what I've done is I've set the real-world context of this object. And now I have to explain the link of this object to the prompt. So I'd say something like, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation holds the values of alleviating poverty, enabling everyone to live in dignity and developing opportunities for marginalised communities and peoples. The report on universal basic income was conducted in order to see if those values could be fulfilled through the UBI. As such, the report is knowledge that was produced because of the values held by those who produced it, and therefore it demonstrates one of the ways in which values affect the production of knowledge. Now, we've fulfilled these 2 squares on the diagram, and we may have achieved up to 4 marks, but we want more than 4 marks. We want to get 5 or more marks, and to do that we have to give a justification for the particular contribution that each individual object makes to the exhibition. Now the wording is rather wordy, perhaps a tad convoluted, but worry not. This is why I made you write 3 knowledge claims at the beginning of the video. The 3 knowledge claims, 1 for each object, form the particular contribution that each individual object makes to the exhibition. This is how we're fulfilling the assessment instrument of the ToK exhibition. So now we're going to jump into the box called Justify Inclusion on the diagram, and we're going to roll out our knowledge claim for object 1. And our knowledge claim for object 1 is that values affect why we produce knowledge. So I'll write something along the lines of, the values held by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation influenced or even motivated them to produce the report. The values that they held gave them a purpose for the production of knowledge. These values will have informed the rationale for the production of knowledge and possibly the desired or hoped for outcomes of the production of knowledge, which in this case are the findings of the report. And then for evidence, I would simply quote a bit from the mission statement of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. I would quote a bit of the report and give a full academic reference for the report using the preferred referencing format for your school. And if you don't know what the preferred referencing format for your school is, ask your ToK teacher or your DP coordinator. And that's object 1 done. I would then go through the same process for objects 2 and 3 using the same diagram as a structure. It's real-world content, or RWC, the link to the prompt, justification of the conclusion, i.e. explaining the knowledge claim for this particular object, and then I would check that I've included suitable evidence. That could be references or named photos, magazine articles, whatever it is. So I'll just quickly explain why I chose objects 2 and 3. So knowledge claim 2 is values affect what we choose to produce knowledge about, and I chose Gustave Courbet's 1849 painting The Stonebreakers. Now, Courbet was a pioneer of the social realist school of painting in 19th century France, and these painters, they believed that art should focus on everyday normal people doing normal things rather than on religious figures, aristocracy, or exceptional people. So they held the values that art should reflect a real or everyday life. Therefore, Courbet painted some people whose job it was to break stones for use in construction. He chose to produce artistic knowledge about something that aligned with his values, or his values directed the subject of his production of knowledge. And knowledge claim 3 is that values affect the biases arising from our production of knowledge. So for object 3, I chose a specific medical trial that ran in the US from 1973 to 82. That's the US multiple risk factor intervention trial. Now, this medical trial had 3,500 participants who were all male. The scientists who designed the research felt that any findings that applied to men would also apply to women, and therefore they didn't need to include any women in the research. Now, we've subsequently found that there are in fact sex-based differences in cardiovascular functioning. Therefore, the biases in the production and findings of the medical research arose because of the values of those who designed the research. So this was just an example showing you how you could answer this prompt. It's certainly not the only answer to the prompt. There are many, many other possible answers. Further, the structure that I use is not the only possible structure. Again, there are many other possible structures. It's just the structure that works for me and the students with whom I work. Which smoothly leads me on to let you know that if you need help with your ToK exhibition or ToK essay, you can hire me as a ToK coach. Details are on my website or in the link in the video description. And if you're a teacher who's looking for resources and support with any aspect of your ToK course, check out the teacher support page on the ToK Today website or contact me, daniel@toktoday.com. 2 final reminders. If you're a student who wants more help with this prompt or any of the other ToK exhibition prompts, then check out the ebooks that we have available on the ToK Today website. And if you would hit like and subscribe, I would be happier than a DP student pressing the submit assignment button on Manage Back. Thanks very much for watching. Stay ToKtastic.